All right, this message is for the woman who has been sitting with fear lately, but a certain flavor of fear. It's not the obvious one. It's the fear underneath the fear. Because on the surface, it looks like anxiety. It looks like overthinking, researching, preparing, checking and double checking, running through every possible scenario in your mind, realizing it's not actually what you're afraid of. It's more of this fear of being the one who has to decide, the one responsible for the big decision making. And maybe if you're a mother, you know what I mean. Not just deciding what to make for dinner, not just deciding what activities your children are doing. Those moments where something really matters, a medical decision, a developmental concern, a safety issue, a choice where there was no perfect answer and no guarantee. Moments when someone hands you the responsibility and says, you're the parent. And you're like, but am I? I think I'm the kid still, right? And then it's like suddenly the weight of love becomes visible. Because love isn't just tenderness. Love is responsibility, showing up. You're taking the other as yourself, and not in a win-lose kind of way, but you're assessing a win-win kind of way. It's like love is carrying something for someone that you never wanted or expected to carry, but because someone is too small to carry them. And so lately, if you've been wanting this certainty, wanting reassurance, wanting someone to hand you a map and say, don't worry, follow these steps and everything will be okay. But life rarely works that way, doesn't it? And motherhood definitely doesn't. And I think that's why I wanted to make this video. Not because I have answers or not because I figured something out, but because these videos are not lessons, they're investigations. And today I wanted to investigate something with you. What happens when love asks us to be brave before we're ready? Because I think that's what motherhood does, or caretaking does. I see this working in geriatrics as well. Over and over again, it asks us to move before we feel prepared, to trust before we feel certain, to choose while holding incomplete information. And maybe this is like one of the hidden initiations of motherhood or of matrescence, not learning how to care for another human, learning how to live with uncertainty. Because I don't know about you, but for me, before having children, we secretly believe that if we gather enough information, prepare enough, work hard enough, think hard enough, we'll eventually reach this place where we know exactly what to do, or at least be able to make the most informed guess and decision possible. And then motherhood arrives, and we're making decisions in the fog, doing our best with the information that we have, and realizing that we still can't control everything. And I don't know about you, but sometimes it just feels unbearable. And so here's the thing. It's like the fear isn't always that something bad will happen. Sometimes the fear is that something will happen and you'll be the one to decide what to do. That's a different kind of fear. That's a mother-sized fear. And I don't think we talk about this enough, because the internet loves confidence. The internet loves certainty. The internet loves experts. But what about the rest of us? What about the women quietly carrying impossible decisions, impossible questions, the women researching at midnight, the women second guessing themselves, the women trying to hold everyone together while wondering if they're doing enough? I see you. I am you. Lately, I've been realizing something. The weight isn't coming from weakness. The weight is coming from love. Because if we didn't care, this wouldn't hurt. This wouldn't be uncomfortable. If we didn't care so deeply, love so deeply, we wouldn't worry so deeply. And maybe that sounds obvious, but I think it's really important, because sometimes we treat our fear like it's evidence of failing or evidence of weakness. But what if it's evidence that we care? What if it's evidence that our hearts are deeply involved? Not all fear is pathology. Not all anxiety is pathology. Sometimes it is very appropriate. We just have to remind ourselves of that sometimes. Some fear is love standing at the edge of uncertainty. And maybe that's why motherhood can feel so lonely, because you're constantly holding things that no one else can understand. You know your child, their quirks, their history, the 1,000 tiny details that no one else sees. And with that knowledge comes responsibility. Well, responsibility is heavy. I just sometimes wonder that motherhood isn't about learning how to carry and raise children, but learning how to carry uncertainty, how to love without guarantees, how to move forward with the fear without certainty. how to trust ourselves while still feeling afraid. And if you're anything like me, you're probably tired. Maybe not physically tired, but like that too. Like your soul is tired, decision tired, responsibility tired, always being the grown up tired. Am I sounding immature right now? I'm just tired, kind of tired that comes from constantly scanning the horizon for storms. And lately I've been wondering if that vigilance comes at a cost. What is the cost of that? Not because vigilance is bad. Sometimes vigilance protects us. Sometimes vigilance is wisdom. But eventually we have to find a way to live too. Eventually we have to find the I, anchor yourself, and then find the lighthouse, the place inside ourselves that stays steady when the forecast keeps changing. Because otherwise life becomes one endless emergency. And maybe you felt that too. Maybe you've caught yourself waiting for the next thing, waiting for the next problem, waiting for the next shoe to drop, waiting for permission to finally exhale. Some of us aren't exhausted from what has happened. We're exhausted from carrying what might happen. Anticipation is such a strange thing. Sometimes the storm itself isn't actually what drains us. It's standing at the shore and watching the horizon and all clouds gathering. Sometimes it's imagining every possible outcome. Sometimes it's rehearsing pain that hasn't arrived yet. And I don't say that as criticism. I say that with compassion because that's what loving mothers do. That's what loving caretakers do. We run the simulations. We prepare. We plan. We try to protect. But eventually we reach the edge of preparation. And then what? Then comes the trust. And trust is really difficult. Not trust that everything will be okay. That's not the kind of trust I'm talking about. The kind of trust I'm talking about is the trust that if something happens, you will respond. Trust that if a hard moment arrives, you will meet it. Trust that you don't need tomorrow's strength for today. Stop demanding tomorrow's courage from today's version of you. Maybe courage doesn't work that way. Maybe courage arrives when it is needed, not before. Keep asking for certainty, but maybe what we actually need is trust that when the moment comes, we'll become the version of ourselves that can meet it. Remember, you have already survived moments that you couldn't imagine surviving. You have already learned things that you never thought that you would learn. You have already carried weights you once believed would break you. And somehow here you are, not unchanged, but still here. And I'm just always wondering if motherhood isn't just about raising children. I wonder if motherhood isn't this great awakening and relearning that great return to yourself. Not because it makes life easier, it reveals your fears. It reveals your attachments, your strengths, your limits, your deepest values, places where you still need healing, the places where you are already strong. Motherhood has a way of introducing us to ourselves again and again. And maybe that's why it feels so disorienting, because every new season asks a different version of ourselves to emerge. The newborn mother, the toddler mother, the school-age mother, the mother navigating uncertainty, the mother learning to let go, the mother learning to trust. None of them are exactly the same woman, and yet all of them are you. This is matrescence at its core. Motherhood isn't just raising children. It's becoming someone over and over again. And maybe that's what we're remembering. You don't have to become fearless. You don't have to eliminate uncertainty. Don't have to earn the right to move forward by feeling perfectly calm. What if courage isn't the absence of fear? What if courage is simply refusing to let fear be the only voice in the room? Because fear has a voice. Fear says, what if I get it wrong? What if I miss something? What if you're not enough? But love has a voice too. Love says, show up, pay attention, take the next step. You don't have to know everything today. And maybe wisdom isn't choosing one voice over the other. Maybe wisdom is learning which voice gets the last vote. Listen to that voice, the deeper one, the quieter one, the one beneath the panic, the one beneath the urgency, the one that feels like the lighthouse in the fog, the one that says, find the I, not outside of yourself, inside yourself. Because the eye of the storm isn't where the storm disappears. The eye of the storm is where you remember yourself, who you are while the storm is still happening. And maybe that's what sovereignty actually is. Not control, not certainty, not perfection, but presence, remembering, returning, The goal isn't to become fearless. Goal is to remember who you are while fear is present. If you're carrying something heavy, if you're standing at the edge of uncertainty, if you're trying to be brave for someone that you love, remember, you do not need tomorrow's courage for today. You only need enough courage for the next step. And when the next step arrives, you'll take that one too. And the better it gets, the better it gets. Not because life becomes perfect, but because we become more familiar with ourselves, more rooted, more trusting, more able to find the I. And if you're in a storm right now, if you're carrying responsibility that feels bigger than you, if you're afraid of getting it wrong, I hope you'll remember this. You were never asked to be perfect. You were asked to love. And from where I'm sitting, that's exactly what you're doing. This has been another echo from the eye of the storm within. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.